Okay, I'm going to make the third version of this robot skin, and it's going to have 4 electrodes, 2 horizontal and 2 vertical. But first I need to lay down this first layer of silicone and let that dry for about 4 hours. So that's what we're going to do right now. Get the scale ready. I don't have an exact amount of silicone I'm using. Kind of just eyeballing it. Zero that out. Okay, I'm going to put in somewhere around 18, I think. Let's see what I can get here. I don't know if we need that much. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do, it's almost 16. I'm going to stop there for this because I want this layer to be a little bit thin. Alright, so it's 15.8. I'm going to put 15.8 of the second part in. If I'm lucky. Alright, that's close enough. 15.9. Okay. We got both parts in there. Mix them up really well. Fully mixed. We don't have some sticky spots. And then I'll start putting it on to the glass plate. It makes it nice and smooth, and it's easy to remove off this glass plate. And I just put those little marks to indicate the boundary of where I really want this to go. Those 4 corner marks just for the dry erase marker. Basically just try and get it to somewhat even in its thickness. Cover the area I want. I can trim it nice and cleanly at the end if I want to. Get some of this. That fleck is going to stay in the cup, which is nice. Okay. This might be a little thicker than I want. We'll see once it dries. So I'm going to let that sit for about 3 to 4 hours, and then we'll peel it up, and I'll put some electrodes. 2 going vertically, 2 going horizontally, and put another layer of silicone on top. And then after 3 or 4 hours, once that dries, we can peel it up and we can make the connections to go onto the capacitive touch board. Alright, so back in a moment. Okay. Looks like it's dry enough now that we can go ahead and cut this to size. I'm just going to cut along those lines. It spreads out a little, so we have a little extra. I wanted it to be a little thinner anyway, so that's okay. And what we're left with is our 4x4 grid. Take that out. place it on here. Now I'm going to get some of the conductive. This is the stainless steel conductive thread. I'm still using this stainless steel conductive thread that doesn't have any stretch to it. I think I'm going to get some more dynamic readings if I use stretch thread, but I don't have that yet, so I'm going to still go with this until I do. So I want it to, I need to tape it on both ends, but I want to have enough tail here to where I can connect it easily. This is just to secure it into place while I pour the next layer on. And I'm going to go a little thick with this layer because I've had problems in the past where the conductive thread makes it to the surface. I think it kind of floats up. So I'm going to try and get this as tight as possible. As flat against the bottom as possible so it doesn't have the opportunity to float up. I'm going to pull this tight without pulling it out from the tape. Get it as tight to the bottom as possible. Tape it down. It's already starting to pull up. It's not the stickiest tape, but I wanted it to be somewhat easier to come up when I was done. And it doesn't want to stick in the areas where the silicone kind of penetrated the board. That's pretty much what the problem is here. So I'll bring it up here where it's dry. All right, here's the second one. I'm making them kind of wide because I want a very clear distinction for the quadrants. It's much wider than it will eventually be, but in these tests, I want them to be as very clear as possible, knowing where these locations are. And once I fine-tune that, I can start to make the grid smaller and smaller and higher definition. All right, here's the thing. You can't have, since these are not insulated, I cannot have these one on top of the other, otherwise they'll short out. So this will have to be the next layer. I'm going to try and stick it. Still, it's a little sticky. I made sure that I came in an hour early, so I only did it about 3 hours. That way it would still have a little bit of stick to it, and hoping that will also hold that down. All right, now we're going to go ahead and put this next layer of silicone as light as I can do it. That will still cover these really well. sure I get that covered. Really, it's the most important part of this. Alright, my phone cut out at the end of the last video, but basically all that happened is I finished putting that down, and about 3 hours went by, it solidified, and now I'm going to do the next layer, which is going to be these next 2 electrodes. Silicone. To form the grid pattern of 2 horizontal and 2 vertical conductive threads as the electrode. I guess I don't have to put all of it down if I don't want to anyway. I have extra. Alright, I'm going to start by focusing on covering these adequately, because that's the important part. Then fill everywhere else. Alright, we're going to let that sit for the next 3 hours, which actually will end up being tomorrow morning for me, and then we'll cut this loose, connect all 4 of these threads to some connectors. That way we can plug in some lead wires to go to the conductive touch board, this one right here. I still have to solder these pins onto it. Alright, we'll get to that next tomorrow. Alright, so it's the next morning, and it's time to cut this out carefully. Alright, so as you can see, this process takes a lot of fiddling, and it could be streamlined, but this is how I've got it so far. So we've got a grid of 4 coordinates where I can still have room to touch individual ones. And we'll see how they interact. Next stage will be to wire up each of these threads.